kynhun ki MLA Congress Ïatai saniba halor kamat khappud hakalai trip nalar arjar apui bat ong bah hakapor baka parti kalalong kamat ya sarkar jela hagisnam ki baladap Ïatai bah bat baro ki baidun mentah halor kajingkam ya ki jaka khappud ki badan hapadeng kaji kanan habai keren bat kilap thai khobor hadin kajelang u Dr. Mukul sangma unoilam kalyang persya ha kaying doba tho ain kajela ulong baya kikot kisla lapun klet ak sarkar jela ha katai kapor ulai thu bala IT kot saka sarkar jela Assam kebala panpor ban penbej ikti kot kisla kibala bun bha kum kajing tho nadu kapor kajing sinsyar ki phareng ulong ba kinoilam na baro ar jela kide ban budin yakane ha koi pat kalyang ulai thu baka parti kan sahiar jurip ya ka Ïongkhuli right marwat ha sautrik nar arjar apoi halo kajing jai kana khappud badang shen ha kate ke jaka.
We have had an exhaustive due diligence, exhaustive discussion with the stakeholders, numerous presentations on various factors, available records to substantiate our claim over those land which falls within the areas of difference along the Meghalaya and Assam interstate border. You can recall that this substantive compilation of these records enabled us to create an exhaustive documentation to substantiate and reinforce our claim and justify our claim over those villages which falls under areas of difference along the Assam-Meghalaya interstate border. Now this exhaustive documentation which was prepared by our government then was submitted, placed before our counterpart in our discussion at the Chief Minister's level. Subsequent to that, our counterpart Assam government has asked for time, since it was a bulky document referring to various notifications from the time of the British era prior to independence, subsequent notification after independence. So obviously they wanted some time, and that time went on. They sought for more and more time, and based on this documentation which reinforce our stand in as far as our claim and justification thereof pertaining to these areas of difference along the Assam-Meghalaya border is concerned, all the negotiation and discussion with our counterparts should follow. That should be the basis based on which the discussion should be on. In the recent press briefing, which was basically a joint press briefing by the two chief ministers of Assam and Meghalaya, we could hear the Chief Minister of Assam referring to that documentation which has been submitted by government of Meghalaya. And he was heard saying that based on those claims and justification, whatever was submitted by the state of Meghalaya, they also have their own interpretation and their stand. Therefore, obviously, they are indicating that they vary, meaning they would probably try to deviate from those justification which forms the part of that exhaustive, huge compilation of interpretation of the records to substantiate and reinforce our claim. But the fact remains that this whole documentation is available with the state government, and that should form part of the basis based on which the bilateral discussion should follow. Because as political party and as members of that particular political party who were privileged to be elected by the people, we are duty bound to ensure that whatever negotiations, whatever bilateral discussions are held with our counterpart to resolve this contentious issue must revolve around the interests of our own people, and all the available possibilities of discussion must ensure that the interests of the people are taken care of, and the discussion that can be arrived at to resolve the issue must be based on what is acceptable to our people. The basis of arriving at any decision to resolve this issue must be on the basis of acceptability of such decision by our people. So we will be looking at what is acceptable to our people and nothing less than that. The important aspect is to protect the interests of our people, which revolves around even pending resolution, pending arriving at a resolution on this contentious issue of settling the areas of difference with Assam in respect of the interstate boundary. We must protect the interests of our innocent common men who have been victim of this long pending unresolved problem. Their livelihoods have been dislocated. They have been subjected to innumerable sufferings in the past, even since the inception of the state. And that is the reason why when I had the privilege to lead the government, we took cognizance of the sufferings of the people, and we introduced a new scheme in the name of Interstate Border Area Development Program. Okay, and we allocated substantial amount of fund, which was allocated in uniform for all those areas without any favoritism or ill will. In other words, in much more softer tone, without any discrimination, unlike the present government. But unfortunately, the present incumbent government is so bankrupt in understanding the problem of our people who are residing in the interstate border areas, particularly those people who are in the areas of difference, that they have not given due recognition and due attention to this initiative. They must have studied and did some due diligence to understand what was the background which ultimately culminated into embarkment or initiative of this particular developmental program, which revolve around developmental programs which can be taken up as per the needs of the people. I am very pained and disturbed because our people have been abandoned by this government. It's very painful. I was talking to these people yesterday also and today also. And they were telling us few schemes which were initiated during our time and which were also sanctioned were also diverted and implemented somewhere. And they claim that they were not implemented at all properly. I have taken cognizance of those complaints, and we will also take stock of those issues. If these programs have not been implemented properly or have been misused, that will be another issue that will be taken up. You see, people can have different opinions. Mr. Hemanta Biswa Sarma can have his own opinion. We have to see whether it is acceptable to the people or not. Okay? Whether it is acceptable to the people or not. Whether that kind of strategy will revolve around our stand and our responsibility to protect the interests of our people or not. We'll have to go by that. We should not be guided by any individual opinion, but what is acceptable to the people, we will be guided by that. We will be visiting Ïongkhuli tomorrow, precisely because of this reason. Because we have to see whether the government is protecting the interests of our people or not. If there is some kind of any new creation of disturbance in those areas where we should not have any disturbance or any kind of confusion or lack of clarity pertaining to the areas, then government has to be held accountable for failure to protect the interests of our people. That means it goes again. That means they are not bothered. Their priority is different. You see, the responsibility of any government, for that matter, is multifaceted. problem does not confine only in respect of the problem pertaining to this area of difference with Assam and Meghalaya. There are so many problems. Okay, now we have a problem of pandemic. We have a problem of various other issues, including uncontrolled price rise. So many things. So that means that government's role is multifaceted. Multifaceted. That's the reason why I always say that the governance is not everybody's cup of tea. Well, I know people will have ambition to be in government, to be in power. But with power comes responsibility. Responsibility of what? Responsibility of attending to the aspirations and expectations of the people. And these aspirations and expectations of the people includes all sections of people, including the people who are in the most disadvantaged areas, most difficult areas. If we don't handle those issues, then what happens? Then, there will be slow, change of events which will be fallout of development of frustration, anger, and lack of trust on the system. Then people go against the system. We have already gone through those problems, haven't we? Yes, Northeast specifically has gone through that problem because of lack of hope. Lack of hope because of government's failure to generate hope. If we fail to generate hope, people will become hopeless.